local history, local culture, local events, your community. This is the Joe Kelly Show.
Hi there, everybody. Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us. We're in Thendara. We're about ready to get on the Adirondack Railroad. We're going from Thendara up to Tupper Lake. The first time this has happened since the Olympics. So we're very happy to be on board with all these people. We got 6 cars that are going up there, including a dining car and a dome car. We're going to show you a lot of great scenery. We're going to talk to people who are involved with the Adirondack Scenic Railway. And we're going to do all that right now. Before we had managed to even depart from Thendara Station, we were treated to all the rustic comforts and curiosities of the old rail line. Everywhere we looked, there was something to see. It wasn't long before they called for all aboard, and we settled into our accommodations on the luxury train. Pretty soon we met up with Adirondack board member Vince Sperrazza, who gave us a quick tour before sitting down for an interview. And now we're joined by Vince Sperrazza, a member of the board of directors of the Adirondack Railroad. Board member for 4 years, Vince, yes?
Yes.
Yeah. And I got a feeling you enjoy doing what you're doing.
Oh, absolutely. It's a great organization, and I like working with the other board members and our staff.
Yeah. And today, what a treat this is to come from Thendara up here. We're on our way to Tupper Lake. Scenery is just beautiful. Your impressions of the day so far, Vince?
Oh, for this inaugural train ride up to Tupper, the first since 1981, I'm just thrilled. Our on-board staff, as far as the treats and the drinks and the food and everything is fantastic. The onboard service is right up to par, and as far as the mechanical things and operation of the train, it is as smooth as we could wish. These tracks have all been rehabbed through a grant from the state of New York, and wow, it's nice to ride on these tracks. The ride is very smooth.
I'm impressed by that as well, Vince. And the last time I was up this far north was for the Olympics, and the tracks weren't this smooth. So the work that has gone into this has been well worthwhile. I saw them doing some work down below.
Right. What you saw down below was Tartaglia Construction, which specializes. They're out of Syracuse. They specialize in rail work. And what they have been doing, and most of this is done, they're just finishing up some things, is they've replaced the defective rails, they've replaced the ties that needed to be replaced, thousands of them. They've replaced the ballast, which is the stone that goes under the rails in the ties where it needs to be. And then most of all, they have a machine that is referred to as a tamping machine, but it's so much more. It goes through and makes sure that the rails are level and in place and everything is smooth and so on. And it's no longer, this kind of work is no longer done by folks with hammers and so on, but it's done by machine, and that's how it works.
You mentioned this is the inaugural run up to Tupper Lake, but this is not going to be one and done. I mean, the purpose of the Adirondack Railway, they want to start regular service up to Tupper Lake.
Yes, later this fall, and we encourage people that are interested to watch for it online. There will be a passenger run up to Tupper sometime this fall, probably just one. And then sometime in the summer of 23, we expect to start regular runs.
Yeah. The thing I'll tell you what I'd like to do. I'd like to go from, would it start in Thendara or would I go up from Utica?
Initially, we're starting at Thendara, but we're working on plans to have a run go right from Utica as well. Plus, there's going to be runs from Tupper Lake down to Thendara and back.
Well, that you took the words out of my mouth, because what I would like to do, I'd like to get on in Utica, come all the way up to Tupper Lake on a Friday, spend the weekend in Tupper Lake, and then come home on Sunday. What do you think of that?
That's a great idea. It's one of the things that we've talked about, and we don't know if that's going to happen in 23, but it's something that we're definitely looking at.
The cars that we're riding in, we've got a dome car, we've got a dining car, we've got this car, coach class car.
We call this one of our first class cars, or one of our table cars, because all our cars aren't fitted out with a table like this one and the other car that you were in.
The other stock that belongs to the Adirondack Railway, we see some of it at Union Station in Utica.
Right.
We see some of it in Thendara.
Right.
Are those the two spots where you've got your rolling stock?
Yes. And they're coach cars similar to this. Some of them have tables as well, and others without, and they're just the standard coach cars. And then we have our, we call it an open air car, which is an old baggage car, and it has gates that open up to the outside, big doors, and there's gates across them, of course, for safety. And they're used as a bar car on our beer and wine trains as well.
I've been in that car. That's kind of neat to go through the Adirondacks standing there at an open door.
Yeah.
The Adirondack Railway wouldn't be running without volunteers. Volunteers such as yourself.
Right. Our board, we're all board volunteers. Employees, we have an employed office staff. We have employed certified mechanics and employed people that are certified in making sure that the rails are taken care of. And then, of course, our general manager, Justin Gagnon, is in charge of all of that, and he does an outstanding job.
Is Justin on the train today?
No, he expects to meet us in Tupper Lake.
And what do we expect in Tupper Lake? A little ribbon cutting, I think, yes?
Yes, there'll be a ribbon cutting in Tupper Lake.
Okay.
And some speeches and so on.
Yeah. What do you see as the future of the Adirondack Railroad?
Just keeping going with what we're starting with today, going up to Tupper Lake and being the gateway train into the Adirondacks.
And the Adirondack Railway has overcome a lot of obstacles to get to this point today, yes?
Yeah. The pandemic, of course, was a major obstacle, and some unexpected changes in funding, but we're doing okay, and we're, we all laugh when we say it, but we're on track to doing very well. And
I should point out, as long as I've got you here, that in addition to this train to Tupper Lake, which you're going to be part of regular service, you still do the Polar Express.
Right.
Yeah, and some other special trains.
Yep. Polar Express is not totally sold out, but the prime times for those events, the earlier ones, the ones on Fridays and Saturdays, those are beginning to sell out. If any viewers are really interested in Polar Express, get right on to AdirondackRR.com immediately, and hopefully you can get tickets for a time that's convenient for you.
Yeah. Well, I've been on that Polar Express, and I'm a little old for it, but it was a lot of fun. And thanks for inviting us on today. This is a lot of fun.
Oh, and thanks for having me for the interview today.
Okay. The rest of our journey north to Tupper Lake was nothing short of spectacular. There was equal parts dense, lush foliage, great trees, sprawling Adirondack landscapes, not to mention an enthusiastic audience. Before we knew it, the engine car sounded one last salvo from its horn, and we coasted gently into Tupper Lake Station for the ribbon-cutting ceremony. At the ceremony, we heard from several of the individuals who made this big day possible. Jim Ellis.
When we're finished today and you leave the building, I want you to notice that last telephone pole just before Route 3. And there's a couple of red flowers there. There's a story behind that. My grandfather, or my uncle, I'm sorry, my grandmother's brother, saw me in 1974 and he says, "What are you doing with that railroad?" He's Lebanese immigrant. I said, "Why, Uncle John?" He said, "You crazy? What are you doing?" I said, "We're going to have trains coming." He says, "When you have roses growing out of the telephone poles, the train will come here." So there's 2 red roses down there on that last telephone pole just before Route 30. Take a look at it.
ARPS President Frank Kobliski.
The dream that they all believed in is now becoming the longest excursion passenger railroad east of the Mississippi. That's a nice ride. And that early vision and the efforts that followed prior, going back to the 1980 Olympics and farther back, kept the dream alive.
Tupper Lake Village Mayor Paul Moran.
Tupper Lake was like winning a roll of the dice because we are at the center of both. The trail for the people who ride and want to walk from here to Lake Placid or to Charlie's or halfway down and back, and the rail from Utica, Thendara to here, and hopefully we're going to be able to mesh schedules so that Paul Maroon can get on the train here and go to New York City someday in 8 or 8.5 hours, not worry about my car, not worry about what I'm going to do, how I'm going to park it, who's going to steal it, and then be able to get on that train and come back up. So I think there are a lot of great potential for this railroad.
Assemblyman Mike Walczak.
But the momentum and the chugging just continue until the tracks are fresh, smooth, the train is running nice. It's not every day you get to bring your family to work when you're a New York State Assemblyman. But when we saw this on the schedule, I said, oh, I want to bring the wife and kid on that one. And we had an absolute ball. It's a smooth ride. It's going to be an amazing asset for the communities of Old Forge and Tupper Lake.
And State Senator Dan Steck.
I do think that Tupper Lake is uniquely positioned between the rail trail and the rail line here to benefit from that activity. The direction that tourism and recreation is going in the North Country certainly suggests that this is going to be very helpful here. And then also the DRI and the support that we've gotten from the state over the years. As you know, there's just a lot going on in Tupper Lake. It's thrilling to be ringside for that and to support it in any way that I can.
Having heard so many great names called and so many people being thanked and praised for their contribution, I resolved to have a few words with a man who I thought deserved special appreciation, railway engineer Peter Gores.
We're with Peter Gores. Peter was the engineer on the way up, and hopefully he's going to take us back home.
Try.
Peter's been around the railroad for a lot of years. He's been around this railroad for a lot of years. Peter, what was the track like coming up? And I was telling everybody how smooth it was.
Well, the track was terrible. It wasn't even in accepted condition, which is the lowest FRA or.
This was back in the day.
This was this past summer.
Past summer?
Yeah, no, and the state spent all this money upgrading this track, and as you can see, it rides really well. And we do have a 50-mile-an-hour limit on it, but they replaced over half the ties. There's like almost 100,000 tons of ballast have been laid, Joel, and it's been a thing to my heart. My biggest problem, I'll admit, is down there where they cut the tracks or cut to Lake Placid.
Yeah.
I always hope someday they'll go back.
Yeah. Well, we can dream.
Yeah, I know.
The other thing, Peter, is the equipment that you're driving today looks pretty good.
Yeah, looks good. They're older engines. They're both at least 50 years old, but we keep them up. And same with the cars. They're older cars, Joe. We spent a lot of time, a lot of people. Yeah. And a lot of money, but we're trying to keep this going. We all believe in this thing, as you well know.
Yeah.
You were part of it. So.
Well, that's nice of you to say.
Yeah.
But you've been fighting for the railroad for a long time.
Yeah, about 50 years.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
We weren't able to keep Peter for too long as he had work to do. Thankfully, the train couldn't depart without him, so we were able to hurry back to our seats without a problem. Our return trip gave us the chance to sit down and chat with Frank Kobliski, president of the railroad, who was left feeling downright exuberant over the day's many successes. And we're joined by Frank Kobliski, who is the president of the railroad. You must be the happiest guy in the train today.
I have to be. As I said in my speech when we were in the Tupper Lake station, please pardon my exuberance, but boy, it just feels great.
Yeah.
You know, after the culmination of people, you know, the people that have worked on this over the years, I'm comparatively a Johnny-come-lately, but we've got Jim Ellis up in Tupper Lake, who has worked on this preservation since before the Olympics in 1980. So,
and I knew it was going to be a long presentation at Tupper Lake, because once you start thanking people, there's a long list with this one.
There are partnerships galore between ourselves, the Adirondack Railroad, and the state of New York. We've got elected officials heavily involved and invested in our success. We have the business community and the tourism community up in the Tri-Lakes area. And really, this is the culmination of 30 years of growth. We started out running 4 miles of track from Thendara, which is outside of Old Forge, down to Minnehaha, with a group of unpaid volunteers who made it happen with some old used equipment. And we always used to laugh and say it was a six-pack railroad. But gradually we expanded to the south, down to Utica, to the north, up to Carter, and then to Big Moose. We had a lot of partners and a lot of help along the way of people who just wanted to join us in being part of a good thing and being part of a dream, being believers.
These are invited guests on the train today, but pretty soon you're going to be opening it up to the public, yes?
Yes, sir. We the construction or the reconstruction of the railroad right-of-way as far up as Route 3 in Tupper Lake will conclude this Friday. And we wanted to be able to get in before the weather turns, and then working around all of our other fall foliage trains, we wanted to get in one train that would be open to the public, that would be the first public passenger train from Utica to Tupper Lake since 1981. So we've sort of informally announced it over the last week or two. Today I wanted to make it official. It's October 16th of this year. It's a Sunday, and you can find out about it on our website or our Facebook page, and we'll be advertising as well. But I'll tell you, those tickets will sell out like
it'll
crazy.
Be a sellout, no question about it. Any idea right now, Frank, how much that's going to cost?
That's still discussion in progress.
Okay.
Yeah.
You mentioned during your remarks at Tupper Lake that this railroad has the distinction of being the longest excursion railroad east of the Mississippi River?
You're correct.
Okay.
And that is, as of today, with today's train going up to Tupper Lake, we have the longest rail excursion ride east of the Mississippi. We have other compatriots and other colleagues and other, fellow excursion railroad operators, and they do wonderful jobs scattered all over the eastern seaboard and the Midwest. But this is the longest ride. It's over 100 miles from Utica to Tupper Lake.
What about next year, next summer? Do you see regularly scheduled trains going north?
Yes. Not only going north, first of all, we need to work around the next phase of the reconstruction, which is at the Tupper Lake Station, where they're going to put in all new track, including a track to turn our trains around. The state is putting in platforms with canopies so people can be out of the weather, and a maintenance shop that we can do any work that may be needed, on a layover with a passenger car or a locomotive or whatever. That should be completed by hopefully early July. So we're not only going to be running some trains that either come up from Thendara and Old Forge to Tupper Lake, or certainly some that will come all the way from Utica, stop in Thendara along the way, and so forth. But it's not all just about bringing people up to Tupper Lake on a train and then they maybe visit the Wild Center or whatever and eat, maybe stay over. But it's also our plan to have trains originate from Tupper Lake and this is where economic impact will really be known. People will drive to Tupper Lake. They may come early and stay overnight the night before. They may visit the local attractions, whether it's outdoor activities or the Wild Center or whatever. Take a train ride down to Old Forge, and we would bus them into the village of Old Forge from the train station. So we're going to have trains going in both directions. It's a matter of how soon we can get that rolling based on the next phase of the construction around the railroad station.
Frank, look ahead down the road, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. What are you seeing for the Adirondack Railroad?
We're going to look at trains that are just more than a scenic ride. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful all year round. You look out the window, it's beautiful scenery, especially in the fall. But we're going to be looking at theme trains where you can have dinner on the train. Or it might be an event for kids with Halloween and pumpkins and all the hobgoblins and whatever, much as we do in Utica and Thendara. So those types of different and new and interesting offerings will definitely be in the cards.
Yeah,
And we may even have a few surprises along the way.
Yeah. Remember, was it on this railroad? I can't remember, where you'd actually have the hold up on the train and
the train robberies. We're not doing that this summer because we had so many activities to work around. But we do that, or have done that, out of the Thendara Old Forge depot.
Yeah.
But we had princes and princesses and superheroes, and so we're always looking. We want to make the product new and interesting and fresh.
What kind of financial shape is the railroad in?
Well, we had to suffer through, and I say suffer because it was very challenging when COVID hit. We had a year and a half where we were not allowed by state and federal government to run trains. Yet we still had the expense of our lease, our utilities, the cost of having a staff doing work on the railroad cars and the locomotives. So we had in 2020 and early 21, we had a very, very tough time. I won't mince words. But with a lot of help from our bankers and a lot of supporters and some federal programs, we're down to, we should have all of our obligations from COVID-19 cleared up by the end of this year. But it was a very, very tough time where we had skeleton staff. We had a lot of people doing things that they weren't hired to do. But everybody put their shoulder to the wheel, and here we are. And some of our colleagues, unfortunately, whether it's here or out, in the western part of the country, didn't make it.
Yeah. I should point out all the people that have been lining the tracks today. That's so nice to see.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
All the way up and now all the way back.
Yeah.
Youngsters, old folks.
Well, if I wasn't on the train, I'd be out there waving too.
So would I. Absolutely.
Frank, continued success.
Thank you so much, Joe.
Okay. The ride back allowed us more time to enjoy the hot food, cold drinks, and, of course, the good company, some of the best of which being the train conductor himself, L. Haywood. And we're joined by L. Haywood. Al, a longtime member of the Adirondack Railroad. Conductor, engineer, inspiration.
Board member, yep.
Board member, yeah. How many years did you go back with the railroad?
02, so 20 years this year.
Yeah. Congratulations. The scenery we're seeing today, a lot of it, and you know it, a lot of what we go by today, there's a Dr. Webb influence, yes?
Yes, yep, Dr. William Seward Webb, who created or came up with the concept of building a line all the way from the Mohawk Valley through to Montreal. He started, I should go back and say everybody else said you're crazy trying to build right through the Adirondacks, and he said no, we can do it. And he started in 1892 in the spring, and by late fall of 93 you could get on in New York City, come up and make a transfer at that time at Herkimer, it's now Utica, and go all the way through into the mountains and even end up in Montreal.
There's a little bit of Dr. Webb that you can see from this train.
There is. We're going to, in fact, as we roll along, we're just a couple miles short of Dr. Webb's estate, which was Nahasny. He owned tremendous amounts of land in the Adirondacks, but this was his private estate. It was one of the great camps. I think it was designed by Durant, who did most of the great camp designs. And he had his own personal lake, Lake Lila, and mountains and so on. What we'll go by just shortly is the remains of his personal train station.
Yeah. One of the advantages that this railway has, Al, is that we get to see this kind of stuff off the side of the train. It really is beautiful country.
It is. It's we're going. If you weren't on the train, probably, and you weren't a hiker, you wouldn't see it. This is the desolate part. You know, I was joking with some people earlier that once we left Big Moose until we got to Tupper Lake, there is literally no cell phone service, no roads, no crossing gates. If you want to get away and see the countryside and relax and not have your phone ringing either, great way to travel.
What's your thought, Al, on the future of this railroad? I mean, it seems like it's all out there for the railroad.
Well, it is, and obviously I guess we'll probably make a misstep somewhere along the line, but in fact I was just talking to Kelly Wazowski from tourism. We were talking about all the opportunities. You know, you're going to have people who want to go so fast that we can get there yesterday. You're going to have people who want to study every tree we go by. Others who want to get dropped off with their canoe. We went by just a couple of canoe portages back there where they can get off with their canoe and then we'll pick them up in a week or whatever that might be. We've talked about trains just running between Thendara and Tupper, so people who are in the southern peaks can get up into the high peaks. The opportunities for types of service are unlimited.
Yeah. How do you rate today? You're the conductor of the train. How do you rate how I thought, my humble opinion, it was a great day. I mean, everything went well.
It was. So there's a couple behind the scenes hiccups that you didn't see and you don't need to see. You know, your job is to sit back and enjoy the ride and enjoy the food, enjoy the camaraderie, which is one of the great parts of traveling by train, is just meeting folks and chatting. My wife, when we go across country, that's one of the highlights, is just sitting at a meal, chatting with people, and even on this train. See the sights, have a meal, have a cocktail, chat with folks.
Now, in addition to being a conductor, you're also a licensed engineer, are you not?
I am, but I much prefer to be back here.
Do you?
Yeah.
Why so?
Well, I say to people, the things I don't like about engineer, it's noisy, it's dirty, it's lonely, and you're not in charge.
Yeah.
And as my wife would say, I like to be in charge. So the conductor role fits better than the engineer role.
You know, I had just a great opportunity to talk to Peter Gores when we were in Tupper Lake. Peter, a longtime engineer, longtime advocate for the Adirondack Railway.
Oh, absolutely. Peter goes back to 1992 when they opened the first 4 miles of track at Thendara. And they, as I said, they had 4 miles. There were trees growing up in the gauge that had to be cleared. They had to get the equipment up from Utica. It was a tough start, but you know, I made a chart that I carry around that starts in 1992 with those 4 miles, and we've added, and now from Utica to Tupper we'll be doing 108 miles.
I'll tell you what I look forward to. I look forward to the day, and I think we're going to see the day next year, when people can say to one another, what do you want to do this weekend, honey? How about if we take the train up to Tupper Lake, spend the night, and come back home?
Right.
You think?
I think so.
Yeah. The other thing about the railroad is that it has survived so much. The resiliency, really, of mostly volunteers.
It is. It's
to keep coming back.
It's heavily volunteer. You know, when it first started, it was obviously 100% volunteer. But as we've grown into a real business, you know, you do need to have a professional staff doing some of the jobs. We still go with onboard volunteer train service people, but
Yeah.
It's we're always looking for volunteers. I should throw in a pitch.
Well, good.
Yep.
Good.
We people who want to be car hosts and just chat with the folks, help them board, just go along for a ride and chat with people, take tickets and so on, all the way through people who want to be brakemen, who is the conductor's assistant, to conductors and engineers.
And they go through classes.
And we do it all in-house. We are federally regulated because our track connects to the outside world at Utica. We fall under all the FRA regulations, and every year I have to take my federal certification test over again. So we're federally licensed and registered.
Now we got 25 seconds left, but we hear the train horn at various spots. Where do we hear that horn?
The most typical is grade crossings, and that always is long, long, short, long. That's universal. That's the train symbol. You'll also hear, if he sees wildlife on the track in front of himself, he'll blow the horn. And sometimes if we're going through, particularly down around Big Moose, we have a lot of rock cuts, and we're always afraid going through a rock cut there'll be animal person in there, and there's not a lot of room.
All right.
So a blast on the horn to help clear it out.
Continued success.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
With an exceptional day on the tracks nearly behind us, and with the promise of more like it to come, I made sure to take in one last eyeful of Adirondack splendor. This was a proud day for upstate New York, and we thank the railroad and everyone else involved for making it happen. That's it for this week. Until next week, take care, everybody.